Morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning, sir.
So is the slide and audio clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So we'll continue our discussion that we had started in the last class, and in between, all of you have done at least one class on the PLC. So you might have got some understanding on that part. So we were discussing about the input output modules and the type of input output modules and how you will decide which device to be interfaced to which type of module. So that part we have discussed. Now let's discuss a little bit more about the other components of the PLC. When we are talking about the PLC with multiple modules, as we are saying, there are input and output modules. If you are going to plug in these modules into the PLC, then you require some support basically, or the connections at the back of this PLC. So we are using a chassis and the back plane basically, which will be having all the connectors and the wiring, so that you can plug the PLC, as well as you can plug out the various modules into the PLC rack. So if you can see here, it's coming in the different configurations like this. So here you can see there's a back plane. It means that there's a printed circuit board at the back, and then you will be having these connectors, and then you can hook up these modules into these connectors. So these are the IO modules that you can use. So these are the IO modules, and you can plug in, plug out these modules into this back panel connectors. So if you see overall, there are three different configurations available for the PLCs. The simplest one is where you have everything integrated into one single unit. So this is the one that you can see here. Here you have one single unit with a controller, that's a CPU inside it, and then you'll have all these screw terminals onto the same unit, and the IO modules are inbuilt into it. You need not to plug in or connect any additional module to this. But some of them have a little flexibility that you can expand the current IOs with the add-on modules also to some extent. So, but you already have some IO modules fixed onto the PLC. So depending on the configuration of the PLC, you may have 8 inputs and 4 outputs or something like that. So there's a configuration that you can get, which is more or less fixed basically. And this is important when you are designing any of the applications for the PLC. Then you should know in advance how many IOs are required. Then only you can select the appropriate PLC. And if you select this kind of PLC, you will have a very limited flexibility to expand the IOs later on. So that is the limitation here. So at the time of design itself, you will be fixing how many IOs are required. Now, when we see the other two configurations, this is the one where you can plug in the modules uh, like this. So slots are available and you can plug in the modules. Uh, and you can take out any time actually. So if you see that the size of the chassis is fixed here, so it's in a modular PLC configuration. And then in this case, you can plug in the next one. You can plug in the modules from the side. So like this. So you will have a connector at the end of the module, so that you can plug in another module to it. So that's a way. Here you see the merits and demerits of both the configurations. So in this case, you have fixed number of slots over here, so that you can fix only those many modules into it. But you can take them out and plug in anytime. Even while the PLC is running, it's fine. They are hot plug in, plug out. Just hold on. I think there's a call coming. Let me attend it. Yes. So in this case, you can take out the modules. They are hot plug configuration, and but the number of slots are fixed in the first case actually. The second case, you can expand as many modules depending on the configuration. So you can plug in another module to the last module, and then you can keep on expanding the IOs over here. But the limitation, you will see that you can't take out the module in between. So if you have to remove any of the input output module from the the whole rack, then you have to remove the previous module, then only you can unplug it actually. So that is the limitation over here. Otherwise, you can keep on adding modules to it without disturbing the functionalities. So that way, depending on the nature of the application or the system where you are implementing them, you can decide to choose either of these three configurations that are available. So that is what the benefits I have already explained while discussing on this. Next is the power supply. Now most of the industrial automation hardware, as I was mentioning, they are operating at 24 volt DC, 24 volt DC. It means that you have to convert to 30 volt AC into the DC. So you need an appropriate power supply, which is an SMPS over here. So in most of the CPU or the PLC panels, you will find there's one power supply or more than one power supply. So in this case, if you can see, this is the power supply here. And then you have a PLC plugged in over here, and the rest of the IO modules are there. So like this, you will get to build the complete chassis with the different configurations. Now let's talk about the programming environment once you are clear about the hardware. So most important part to understand in the hardware is the IOs that you have already understood now. And then once you place the IOs and you will make the connections to the IOs, then rest left out how to write the logic inside it. So that is the way you have learned yesterday also in the lab, in the last lab. That you will be writing a program or you will be connecting or defining the relation between the input and output with the help of a programming instructions. But these programming instructions are graphical instructions. So that is how you have learned. That's a ladder programming. We call it a ladder logic. So we'll discuss on that. So you need to have in a software environment, the development environment. So whatever you have used is basically the RS logics. That is the same development environment here where you will be building the logic, and finally you compile and build it and transfer the code into the PLC for make it run. Then most of the devices are connected onto the network. So these days the PLCs are coming with the network interface module. So you will be having one of the module as a network interface module. So through which you can connect it onto the local area network. And then you will be able to establish the communication and connectivity between the various PLCs or various devices such as HMI or the remote IOs. So that way, once you put the PLC onto the local area network, you can communicate with the HMIs in the network. You can also log the data into the system over here, or you can also connect the remote IOs to that. So that way you will put everything onto the network for the communication. When it comes to put everything onto the PLC control panel, this is the way you find that most of the devices we are talking about, they will be mounted inside a panel. And most of the machines or the industrial systems have this kind of a control panel where you place PLC as a hardware. So you have a power supply, you have an IO modules over here. But if you look around, there are some additional systems into the control panel. So if you can quickly identify, you have an MCBs over here. So these are the circuit breakers required for the safety. Then you will also be having electromagnetic relay for the isolation part. Most of the time we'll use them for controlling any of the output device here. And then all the wirings are done in the wiring conduits actually. So you'll find these are the wiring conduits and all the wires are running inside them. So that is how the panels normally wired. And the lastly, you need to see there are the screw terminals actually. That's a very important part of the PLC wiring. That every time you may not be hooking directly into the PLC screw terminal. So we normally terminate all the connections onto these kind of screw terminals. So that on one side you have all the connections coming from the PLCs, and the other side you will be connecting your industrial equipments or the devices or the sensors. So then that's how these screw terminals will be handy. We are not doing any soldering into the PLC control panel. It's all done with the help of thimbles and the screw terminals. You will be putting all the wirings around in the devices in the panel. So PLC is a part of the control system. That is what I was explaining, that when you put into the network, the PLC is one part of that. You can have multiple PLCs also into the same network. So let's do a quick exercise now. I think that's one I always try to take up in the class so that we can assess the understanding that you build up based on the IOs that we have discussed in the last class. So if you can see here, this slide showed a functions which is a automated water sprinkling system. So you have a PLC here, and I would like to interface some of the input and output devices over here to make it an automated water sprinkling system. So what I have done, I have a PLC over here. So you can see that this is the PLC here. Then there are two additional modules added to this. This is one module, this is another module, but you also have some IOs onto this PLC directly. Now, what I want to interface in this case, I would like to interface a water level indicator here. So if you can see that this is a water level indicator, that I have 4 lamps over here, and they need to be connected to this PLC so that I can see the level of the water inside the tank. So there is a water tank that you can see here. Now through water level indicator, I can only indicate to the user what is the level of the water inside the tank. But for that, you need to measure it also. You need to sense it also. So if you can look at the water tank, then there are water level sensors available, and which are based on the principle of there is a float which is made of the light material, but it has a permanent magnet inside it. So this float, what you can see here, this float is basically having a permanent magnet inside it. And there's a steel tube which will be having the reed switches actually. So reed switches are basically the contacts basically which are housed inside the glass envelope. So whenever there's a magnet in the vicinity of this reed switch, it will make the contact close. Otherwise, when the magnet is not nearby, then the contact remains open. So this is a kind of a switch which is operated by the magnet, the presence of the magnetic field. So these are the reed switches which are placed at 4 different levels over here. So if you can see here, this is a 1 reed switch, 2nd reed switch, 3rd, 4th. So you can place them at 1/4, half, 3/4, and 1. So that it can sense the level of the water, and the level of water is basically moving this float depending on the level of water inside the tank. So once the float reaches to the 1/4, it will just make that reed switch on. Same way it keep on moving up and down depending on the level of the water inside it. So that way you will come to know about what is the level of the water inside the tank, and accordingly you will be indicating with the water level indicator. Fine. So this water level sensor has 4 reed switches. So when I am saying 4 reed switches, means that you will be having a glass like this, and then there's a contact element inside this. Like this. So what happens once you bring the magnet in the vicinity of this contact will get closed. So you will be having 2 terminals, which is almost like a contact in any of the switches or push buttons that you can see, but only difference is that you are operating it with the magnetic field. So this is the reed switch actually. In this case, this is a reed switch because you have not learned earlier, so I have just explained its functionality. But other than that, what I am connecting right now, if you can look at this, I am connecting a temperature sensor over here so that I can sense the ambient temperature. I will also be having a humidity sensor to measure the ambient humidity over here. Based on these temperature and humidity conditions, I would like to control the watering of the different type of plants. So I can see here there are 3 different type of plants being used over here. This is 1, 2, and 3. And now there's a flow coming from the tank. So that this is a pipe which is coming from the tank. And I would like to control the flow rate that will go to the individual plant so that I will be controlling the amount of water being delivered to the plant. So these solenoids are not simple on and off solenoids. These valves are basically proportional valves. So we discussed that when we give 0 volt, the valve is completely closed. If I give 10 volt, then valve is fully open, and I will be able to open it any position actually. So I would like to make it 30% open, 40% open, depending on the how much voltage I will be supplying to these solenoid valves. So that way, what I can do, if it is a 10 liter per minute coming from this tank, what I can do, I can just make 30% open so that it will be just delivering 3 liter per minute to this particular plant. Same way I can control the flow going to this flowering plant as well. So these 3 solenoids are basically the proportional solenoids. That is what I just want to emphasize. so that you will be controlling their opening from the PLC. So then you will decide how much water should be dispensed to a particular type of plant. Then I will also be having a water pump here, which is made to run when the level of the water in the tank will fall down, or I can say that fall below 1/4 like this. So we are not building logic right now. So as we go along, we'll understand the programming instructions. Then we may build logic, but right now the problem is to identify the IOs basically, because that's the first activity you have to do whenever you are going for implementation of the PLCs. Any application, you have to first identify how many IOs are required. So in that case, I will suggest that we will quickly do this exercise. So what I want from all of you, that you need to suggest me how many DIs are required and how many DOs are required, how many analog inputs are required and how many analog. So if I'm going to select a PLC from the market to purchase it, I should know how many IOs, how many channels are required. So when I'm saying how many IOs, it means how many channels are required. So how many DI channels should be there, how many DO channels, AI and AO. So what I will suggest, quickly do your assessment. Let's take another 2-3 minutes and please put your response in the chat. Let's not discuss, just make your assessment. So you have to just mention DI colon number and then you will write DO colon number, then AI colon number and AO colon. So you can just write one statement with the type of IO and the number of IOs required. So please just do your quick assessment and then write down your answer. I'm just waiting. Then we'll discuss basically. Then we'll discuss how you arrive at that number. So there is no grading for that. We are just assessing that whether you have identified correctly or not. And then I will be helping you in identifying them correctly. Please write down your response in the chat. No need to worry that whether this is correct or not correct. We'll first collect all the responses and then we'll discuss them. So everyone put DOs also, DOs and AOs also in the same statement. So you have written DI and AI, but let's write the DO or AO also. You have just mentioned about the inputs, but there are certain outputs also. So functionality, I am sure that you have understood that what I have explained. So various sensors and the actuators that we have connected over here. So based on that, we need to decide how many IOs and are required. So you put your answers unbiased. Don't look at what others are posting. You have to just mention your response. That is good enough. Sachin mentioned all the four actually. Let's not put just one. You have just mentioned DIs only. You have to put all the four. Like Naeem Akhtar has mentioned correctly, the DI, DO, AI, AO. Same Mohit Garg has also mentioned, Anuj Seni has also mentioned. So you have to just specify all the four. If the fourth one you are not writing, please write 0 against that. So if you are not written, like Yatin has mentioned 3 only. So the fourth one, I'm assuming that you are considering 0. Is that right, Yatin?
Yes,
You have
sir.
not mentioned any DI. You mean that there is no DI? Good. So those who will not be writing, I will be asking them otherwise. So please write down your answer, then we'll discuss. So who has not responded? Can he finish next 10-15 seconds? Shivang, you have not responded. Shivang, are you there? Okay, so I got fairly most of the inputs. Those who have not responded, I'm not sure are they didn't understood this, or let's try to understand that correctly. So we have talked about the digital inputs, digital outputs, analog input and analog output. So let's see that how you have identified that. So first, let's talk about the digital inputs. So when we say digital inputs means there are some inputs coming to the PLC whose state will be either high or low. It means that I will be getting an input to the PLC, which is coming to the PLC from a device which is connected, but it will be either generating 24 volt or 0 volt, either 24 volt or 0. It means there are the two states of that input. So what are those sensors or the devices here which will be generating two states which I'm supposed to read actually? That's a very important one. When we talk about the digital inputs means I'm supposed to read it. So I see multiple options in the chat. So 0, 6, 4, 1. So multiple options are there. Let's find out which is the correct one. 5 also. So I see almost all numbers are appearing. So let's see that first of all, those who have written 3, let's see which are the 3 digital inputs here. So Sachin Narwal. Sachin, can you tell what are the 3 digital inputs you have considered?
Sir, one is temperature sensor input.
Okay.
One is humidity sensor input.
And third? Which is the third one?
Sir, third one, I don't think there is third one, but I included the water level also.
Okay, fine. So 3 you have mentioned. Let's listen someone else. Kumar Vishes, you have mentioned 6 DI. So what are those 6 DIs?
2 digital inputs for temperature and humidity.
Okay.
And initially I thought 4 digital inputs for the water level sensor, those 4 read switches.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I wrote 6.
Initially means now you are not agree to that?
And now I'm thinking maybe 4 are not needed over there. I'm not sure.
Okay, fine. So let's see. Anuj Sani, you have mentioned 4 digital.
Yes, sir.
Which are these 4?
Sir, these are for 4 read switches.
Okay, fine. Nitin, you have not considered any digital input? Nitin Patel? Yeah, Aman Noval, you want to say something?
Sir, here I'm not show any chat box in my team, sir.
The checkbox means chat actually. You are not seeing the chat?
No, sir.
I'm not sure. Have you not joined the class? Because most of the time you are coming as an external or as a guest, no?
Sir, I have joined through the app this time.
Okay.
But there is
It's
no
okay.
show
So,
any chat
so
box.
can you tell? I
But,
think it's okay if you have not written
sir,
it.
from my side, sir, DI is 1, DO is 1, AI is 2, AO is 1.
1, 1, 2, 1. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's see that. So we'll discuss that. I think now we have multiple options over here. Yeah, so when we say temperature sensor, and when I was explaining that digital input will be the one which will be either giving 0 or 24 volt. Fine. So if the digital input is 0 volt and 24 volt, if I have to read a temperature, how can I read that? In the two state, can you read a temperature value which will be either represented as 0 volt or 24 volt? Say
No.
yes or no.
No, sir.
No, no. So when I say the temperature, the humidity, as I was explaining earlier also, you have a full range of the variation. It means that my temperature can be varying from 0 to 50 degrees centigrade or 60 degrees centigrade. So you have a range of temperature which you need to read. And that is what I was explaining in the last class in detail. You can't represent it by one single bit actually. So digital input is normally represented by the single bit. When I'm talking about the temperature sensor, I can't represent the temperature value by just one single bit. I require number of bits basically. That is what I was explaining, either a 1 byte or 10 bits or 12 bits or 16. So you require multiple bits to represent the value of a temperature sensor and humidity sensor. So in that case, temperature and humidity are what type of inputs?
Analog.
Analog inputs, correct. So these two will be analog inputs. So we need to just question ourselves whenever we will be identifying what type of inputs I will be getting from that, and what is the range of the values that I will be sensing, or is it just in a two-state inputs that I will be getting. Based on that, you will be deciding the interface module. So AI will be two, and these two analog inputs are the temperature sensor input and humidity sensor inputs. So that is correct. So we will have only two AI. So those who have responded with the two AI, their answers are correct. Right. Now let's come to the other inputs here. So first of all, let's identify which are the inputs. Then we talk about whether it's a digital or analog. So what are the other inputs left out over here? Can anyone mention?
Water
So
level.
water level.
Correct, correct. So we have 4 water level read switches, which I was explaining while I was discussing the problem statement. I was mentioning that there are read switches, but there are 4 read switches because I would like to sense the 4 different levels over here. So these are the 4 different read switches. Now each read switch, if you see here, the read switch it's almost like any switch that you might have seen earlier, where you will be having a contact inside it. And then what if I have to use a read switch, how I will be connecting? I will be connecting this terminal to the PLC. This will go to the PLC, and other side what I will do, I will connect it to the 24 volt. Now in this case, how it will work? So when the read switch is not actuated, or when the magnet is not in the vicinity of the read switch, my PLC will be reading 0 because there is no voltage going into the PLC terminal. The moment this read switch is pressed or actuated with the help of a magnet, then this 24 volt will be flowing inside the PLC. So it means that with the help of a read switch, I will be getting either 0 volt or 24 volt depending on the presence of the permanent magnet into it. So that way, one read switch will be giving one digital input. So that is what you need to understand. One read switch, because it's a two state only. Either I will be getting 0 or 1, or I will be getting 0 volt or 24 volt. That is going to the PLC. So one read switch to one PLC input. So we have 4 read switches over here. So it means that I require 4 digital inputs to connect these 4 read switches. Is this clear? So now those who have responded more than 4 digital inputs, let's try to understand and then let's take out their confusion away. So Swabhiman, you have mentioned 6 digital inputs. So I am sure that you might have
Sir,
considered temperature and humidity as well.
Sir,
Is that
no,
right?
no, sir. Sir, actually, by mistake, I thought that there are 2 separate sensors, one for low level and one for high level.
Okay.
So that
okay.
is
But
why
then again it should be 8. Then there are 4 levels.
yeah, I considered 4 read switches. And apart from that, I also considered 2 sensors,
high
one
and
for
low.
low water level and one for high water level.
Okay, fine.
By mistake.
So Mohit, you have mentioned 5 DI.
Yes, sir.
So which is
Sir,
the
4 for water level sensor and 1 for water pump.
Water pump. So let's come to that. So when we talk about the water pump, how you will be interacting with the water pump. Let's try to understand that. Suppose if you have a water pump, how I will consider the input to the PLC. That's an important part to understand. So see, the point we are discussing is very important whenever we go for any kind of an automation implementation. And we need to understand the IOs very correctly. Otherwise, either you will damage the PLC because you may end up in connecting the wrong device to it. Or sometimes you may not be reading the values or you may not be getting the right values out of it. When I say water pump is something, a sensor or an actuator? How would you like
Actuator.
So you would like to control the water pump. Is that right? It means that I would like to make the water pump on and off. Is that clear? So what I want, I would like to control the first of all, I would like to control. So anything that you are going to control should be on the output side. First of all, that could not be on an input side. And if I'm controlling in a water pump, it means that I will be making a water pump on and off. So these are the two things we need to understand. Whenever I will be interfacing any device, I need to check whether I will be reading that device or I will be controlling that device. If you are reading that device or if you are getting an input from that device, then it is an input device. And if I'm controlling that device, then it will be an output device. So in that case, water pump will be an output device. You will be controlling the water pump whether to make it either on or off. Fine. So in that case, then it will be a digital output. Is that right? So we will be connecting water pump to a digital output. Mohit, is that clear now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's see. So digital inputs, 4 digital inputs from 4 read switches. I don't see any other digital inputs available. So 4 DIs is the correct option here. So we will be having 4 digital inputs. We have seen there are 2 analog inputs. These are the 2 correct values. Now let's come to the digital outputs. So digital outputs, it means that PLC will be generating a voltage to make the device on and off. That is, if it is a digital output. So we can see that only pump is the device which PLC is going to make on and off. Because to just fill the water inside the tank, that is how the DO will be there. So those who have mentioned DO1, that's correct. And Mohit, you have mentioned DO4. So you might have considered solenoids also as a DO. Is that right?
No, sir. Actually, I have considered 4 water level indicators.
Correct. So I think, yeah, that's right. So we have 4 water level indicators plus 1 water pump control. So these 4 indicators which we have placed over here, these are a kind of a lamp. And whenever I would like to make the lamp on and off, it means there is an output required from the PLC. So these are the 4 DOs here. You have 4 digital outputs required to control 4 lamps or the 4 LEDs or whatever you want to glow. It means there should be a 0 or 24 volt signal coming out of the PLC, which will be making these lamp on and off. If it is a 24 volt, it will make the lamp on. If it is a 0 volt, it will make the lamp off. So that way 4 digital outputs are required for water level indicators. 1 digital output is required for the water pump. So we'll have total 5 digital outputs over here. So we'll have 1 plus 4. So 5 digital outputs over here. So that way those who have written 5 digital outputs, that is correct. Most of you have written 4 digital outputs. So you might have considered the water level indicators. You have not considered the water pump because you are not thinking that you need to control on and off water pump part. Any other options? So digital output 1. Anuj, you have written only 1 digital output. So how you have?
Yes, sir. I missed the indicator part.
Correct. So you missed that indicator. It's okay. I hope it is clear now.
It's clear now.
Yeah. Okay. So those who have written digital output 1, I'm assuming that they might have missed the indicators, water level indicators. So we now understand, and now left out portion is the analog output. So what are the other 3 outputs over here? So these are the solenoids which we are supposed to control. So these are the solenoids, and as I was mentioning, they are the proportional solenoids. They are not just making on and off. We are trying to adjust the flow rate of the water to the plants through these solenoids, depending on the amount of opening, and which is being controlled by the voltage signal that I will be giving to them. So then it means that I need to produce 0 to 10 volt here. I need to produce 0 to 10 volt for this, and I will be producing 0 to 10 volt. So whenever I will be seeing this kind of a requirement where I need to produce a variable voltage out of the PLC to control the device, then this is an analog output. So these three are considered to be as a part of the analog output. So these are the three analog outputs. Fine. So I think these are the correct options. So I will be requiring, let me see that anyone has mentioned all the options correct. No, I think it's fine. So now with this discussion, I hope all of you have understood this correctly. Now how to find out whether it's a digital input or analog input, and then same with the analog output and digital outputs. And once you have identified them correctly, then only you will be able to interface to the right module here. Fine. Is there any doubt here, or is this clear?
It is
Fine.
clear, sir.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that all of you have understood this correctly. So we will do more exercises when it comes to us, because all PLC programs, before you write a single line of code into the PLC program, this is the first thing we have to draw. So we have to draw the PLC connection diagram that we'll discuss once we discuss the programming part.
Sir, one doubt, sir.
Yes, yes.
Sir, in the output, we have 3 solenoid valves. So
Correct.
we are connecting that with the 3 AOs.
Correct.
But the input is same, matlab means according to the water level, we have to vary the solenoids, 3
Correct.
solenoids.
Correct.
So can't
Not
we connect with the one single output?
No, not with the water level. So there is a constant flow rate coming from the tank. So water level has nothing to do with.
Also with the sensors, or AI sensors, temperature and humidity.
So that will be coming as a part of the logic. Right now, you have to physically interface the devices to the PLC. How and how much will be decided by the logic that you will write in the PLC. So physically now we have just wired. For example, you have to prepare a panel for making this connection. You will be just physically connecting them without even making the power on the whole system. So I have to physically interface all the devices here. So whether it is being controlled by humidity or temperature, by how much amount, that all will be decided as a part of the program. So only thing what I just want to say, you are saying only one solenoid, no? That is what you are saying.
I'm saying, sir, all the 3 solenoids, since input are same. So why we are giving 3?
Yeah, so let me just explain that. So what I will do now, so I will assume that there is a 10 liter per minute is the flow that can come out of the tank. Fine. Yes, so this is the flow coming in. Now my requirement will be 3 liter per minute. My requirement is 4 liter per minute over here. My requirement is 5 liter per minute here. The option what you are suggesting will be just for one plant. So in this case, the 10 liter per minute coming in. If I will use one solenoid, then how I will be watering 3 plants first of all. So it means that the same pipe will continue.
No, sir, my question is that why we giving the output with the one? Matlab means there are 3 solenoids and we are attaching with 3 AOs.
Correct.
So can't we connect with the one AO, since the variation in all?
3 solenoids cannot be connected to one AO first of all. Or if I connect with the one AO, whatever the voltage will be available, it will be available to all the 3 solenoids at the same time. But my requirement for the 3 plants will be different. So if I, for example, if I just connect them all at one just AO here, fine. So what if I will be producing 3 volt over here? It means that 3 liter per minute will be delivered to all the 3.
Okay.
If I make 5 volt available or the 4 volt here, then 4 liter per minute will be delivered to all the 3 plants. So it is not going to serve my application.
All
Are
plant
you
needs
getting that?
different. Yes, sir. Yes.
Are you getting that? So the same flow will be reaching to all the plants. That is not the purpose. What I want, they will be watered at the same time, and then they will be getting a different flow rate. So it means that I have to give a different voltage to the different solenoids. So in this case, I need to give it 3 volt. Here I would have to give to 4 volt. Here I have to give to the 5 volt. Then only I will be able to produce the 3 liter per minute, 4 liter per minute, 5 liter per minute. So it means that 3 different voltage output should be generated by the PLC. And that can only be happen if I have 3 different ports to connect them. Is that right?
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So with this understanding of the identification of the IOs, next comes the programming part actually. So we have just physically connected the devices in the previous application. We have not written any logic inside it, how it will be operating. That comes the functionality implementation, and for that we need to learn the programming. And so that is what you have learned in the lab also. So I will quickly go through that so that you will be understanding it better by the time your next lab will come. So we'll discuss the PLC programming quickly. So you might have seen the way you have written the program. Why it is called the ladder logic? Because the way you keep on writing the instructions, it will be appearing like a ladder. Ladder means that there are 2 vertical lines. So if you can see here, there are 2 vertical lines over here. This is one line and there's another line. And why this ladder logic programming evolved? Because before implementing the logic into the PLC, people were writing the logic with the relay circuits. And the relay circuits, they are using physical wired connections, and that will be having a plus 24 volt line and 0 volt. So ground and plus 24 volt for the supplies, and they will be making all the connections like this. They will be putting all the switches over here, and then they will be adding for example, the lamp and like this. So these kind of wiring was done earlier to the PLC logic. So they will be building all the logic with the relay circuits, and relay circuits are having plus 24 volt line and 0 volt line, and they will be building the current paths. We call the current path, so that one logic will be wired as a one current path. The same understanding now being taken to the PLC, because the time when the PLC were developed, people were not so habitual of writing the programs as such. So they come out with an idea of a graphical programming which has a resemblance with the previous practices of wiring the relay circuits. So that is how the ladder logic concept evolved. And so understanding remains same, that you will be assuming that these are the voltage lines, and then you will be writing, or you will be drawing the current paths here. So what you will be doing here, you will be writing in a one complete logic instructions here. So this is one logic instruction, and we call them rungs actually. So PLC, we call them one rung. So this is a rung 0, rung 1, and this is rung 2, and so on. And the last rung is the end rung, because here the PLC program ends. End doesn't mean that the PLC stop executing the program at this rung. No, it will loop back. It will just go back to the first rung again. So this cycle will continue. It means that it will be just PLC will keep on running this logic in a while loop. But though you need not to explicitly write the while loop as you keep on writing in the other programming languages. Here it's understood that PLC will be continuously running the ladder logic, whatever you have written, from 0 rung to the end rung, and it will keep on repeating. So that is the first thing you need to understand. Then we will be writing the multiple rungs over here, and each rung will be having input instructions. We call the input instructions on the left hand side. So this is the left hand side of a rung. Any rung you will take it up, left hand side will be the inputs. So you have to put all the inputs on the left hand side, and then on the rightmost side you will be writing an output here. So each rung is a kind of an instruction, and these instructions are of the form if then. It means that if these inputs are true, then output is true. If these inputs are false, then outputs are false. So that kind of relationship we have to build up in the each rung, and we will be writing those if then else statements in these rungs. So on left hand side, as I mentioned, you have to put all the input instructions in a different configurations, whether you will be adding them in series or whether you will be adding them in parallel. We'll see that there's a logic for that. And same way on the right hand side, you will be just writing an output instruction which will be actuated or which will be made on and off depending on the state of the inputs before it. So that is how, if these inputs are true, then this output is true. So that kind of instructions are to be written in this ladder logic. And then we will be writing from top to bottom. So this is the first instruction that will get executed. After that, it will execute the second instruction and so on. So that is step by step execution will happen in this case. So let's take an example that you have also done in this way. So for example, I would like to control a motor within a start button. So what I will do, I will be having an instruction which will be reading the state of the start button, and then it will be controlling the output, which is a motor over here. So once I draw instructions like this, it will be in a straight connectivity that once this is true, or this is a straight logic, that once the start button is true, your motor is true. It means that if this is 1, this is 1. If this is 0, this is 0. Because the way we have connected these two input and outputs, one is an input device, another is an output device, through a logic here, which we have written that. So logic has been written in the way that I have used one input instruction and I have used one output instruction and connect them with the lines, that it's a straight logic. If this is true, then this is true. So this is, I'm just giving a quick glance on how the instructions are being. I will be coming specific to these instructions in the coming slides. So we have to interpret in this way. If this is true, then motor is true. If start button is off, then motor is off. Now this symbol that we have used basically for the start button, this is an instruction over here. This is a kind of a command, or that's a programming instruction that you will be using over here. And this instruction, we call it an XIC. So if you can look at this, this instruction we call XIC, and which stands for examine if closed. Again, these are driven from the same relay logic, because we were checking whether the contact is open or contact is closed. So if you can see that the read switch we are talking about, so we are reading whether this contact is open or this contact is closed. So if you see this instruction, it says that examine if closed. It means that if the device that is connected to this input is true or not. If it is closed, means there's a current flowing into it. It means the voltage is available to that. And that's how I will be reading that examine if closed. If the voltage is available to that terminal, it means that I can read this as a true. If the voltage is not available, then I will read this as a false. So this is a simple representation of an normally open contact. That is a configuration available with the relays. Normally open contact means by default the contact is open. And when you energize it, whenever you actuate it, then the contact will be closed. So this instruction will be checking. This is examining that if this is closed or not. So examine if closed. And if this is closed, then we will be taking the action further. So that is how this first instruction that you have learned is the XIC instruction. And that's how you might have written in the same RS logics also. There's a button that there's an instruction palette from where you are dragging and putting into the run. And that is how you will be writing those instructions. And the second instruction is basically again an instruction which we call OTE instruction, that is the output energize. So this is an input instruction, this is an input instruction, and this is an output instruction here. So input is saying examine if closed and then energize the output. So this is how the statement comes up. So the two symbols that we have drawn in the single rung, it says that examine if input is closed, and if it is closed, then energize the output. So if I have to write this statement in the form of symbols over here, then I will be just drawing these two symbols. One is the XIC instruction and another is the OTE instructions. And if I connect them in series, then I will be building the logic that once this start button is pressed, it means it will make the 24 volt available. That's logically true. Then it will energize the motor. Then motor should be on. So whatever is connected into the motor terminal, it will be made on. So this is a simple way in which you will be building the logic. You will be writing the simple instructions over here. Now you can combine the multiple instructions. So you can combine multiple input instructions. So in this case, what I have done here, you can have 3 input instructions. So 3 XIC instructions here. So you have 3 devices and your logic will be checking whether this is true, and this is true. So when we put them in series, it means we are writing a kind of an AND logic. So that means that when I put them in series, it's almost like if you are connecting the push buttons or the electrical switches in series, it means that I will be evaluating the AND logic here. It means that when all 3 are true, then only you will be making them true. So the evaluation will be true only when all 3 will be true. Then it means it's an AND logic. So whatever is connected onto this terminal, and this terminal, if they all are on, then the combined evaluation of all the inputs is true. And that will make the output true. So that's the way we will be adding multiple inputs, input instructions, either in series or in parallel. When we connect them in parallel, then it's an OR logic. So either of the input is true, then your the combined evaluation of the input will be true. So that is how the multiple instructions can be combined. And whenever we would like to operate multiple outputs at the same time, then I have to place them in parallel. Don't place output devices in series. We never place output devices in series. We will only be connecting input devices in either series or parallel, which will be evaluated as an OR and AND instructions. If I put them in parallel, it will be OR instruction. If I put them in series, it will be an AND instruction. But if I have to energize the 2 output devices at the same time, then I will be putting them in parallel. I will be connecting them in parallel like this. Connecting them in series doesn't make any sense because the second device that you will be putting in series is completely dependent on the device in before it actually. So that's how we can't make them simultaneously on. It's dependent on the state of another device. So that's the reason that we never place them in series. So the output devices always be in parallel if you want to make them on at the same time. Only we are connecting the inputs in the series and parallel. So that is the idea of placing the multiple instructions in series and parallel. And your initial programs, what you have written or what you will be writing, most of the programs can be written by these basic instructions. So you have XIC instruction, examine if close, and then you will be energizing the output, that is the OTE instructions. So we'll take that examples in the next class and we'll discuss more how to use these instructions because that's a very fundamental part need to be understood when we do the PLC programming. So the instructions that I was just explaining, we have in a complementary instructions as well. So I will be just covering that and then close the class. So XIC you have understood, that's an examine if close, that I will be using a symbol like this and which we are supposed to read whether this instruction is closed or not, whether the input connected to this is true or not. The complementary instruction is examine if open. When I say examine if open means, so this is representing like an push button which is normally open, and this will be basically representing a push button which is a normally close. I'm just drawing the symbol over here. So this is a push button, another push button. So what you can see here, by default, this connection is open. And once you press this, then this will be closed. So that is how you can check it with the XIC instruction. When we talk about XIO instructions, examine if open, it means that it is already closed. So when you see that normally close contacts, they will be like this. So by default, the current is flowing inside this. It's normally closed. Only when you press it, it will make it open. It means that once the input is available to this instruction, then it will be false. By default, it is true. So this is just an invert logic of this. By default, this is false. And once you energize, it will be true. By default, this is true. But once you energize, it will be false. We'll see the use of these instructions when we discuss the example in the next class. So these are the two important instructions that we have to use, either examine if close or examine if open. And accordingly, you will be reading the inputs from the PLC. Now, in response to that, what you are supposed to do, either you will be energizing the output so that you will be using this instruction OTE, that is, you will be making it on or off. There are another instructions which are known as latching instructions that you will be calling them an output latch and output unlatch. So in the interest of time, we'll discuss these instructions in the next class, output latch and unlatch, why they are required, why they will not be working, why the OT instruction is not sufficient enough. So we'll cover up the basic application of these 5 instructions, 2 input instructions and 3 output instructions before we start discussion on the timers and the counters. I think that's all for today's class.